That could be your message today.
Parents who've been
How about
wondering
that?
when their young children can get a COVID shot. Pfizer says it's
Ask you to stay, but
CEO
you know what?
Albert
We'll be
Bourla
talking
tells
about
ABC
Haiti later on this
it's
week.
a question of
So I'll
days,
bring you in
not
on another
weeks,
one of those
before
conversations
Pfizer
where
and
you're feeling a little bit
German
better,
partner
okay?
BioNTech submit data to U.S. regulators for
Okay.
federal authorization of a COVID-19 vaccine for children aged
Honey,
5 to
when
11.
when you're a little
That
under
would
the
be an
weather,
important step towards starting
now instead
vaccinations
of
for
pushing
youngsters,
through, I
especially
pushed
with
through, but I
children now
stopped
back
now.
in school and the Delta
You know?
variant triggering a big jump in
It's
pediatric
like,
infections.
first of all,
Pfizer
you
said
don't know
last
what
week
it
its
is.
vaccine works for 5 to 11-year-olds with a much lower
You know,
dose than
do
used
not
for
know what
anyone
it is,
12
and
and
you're
older,
like, well, let me
developing
just make
antibody
sure that
levels
I'm going
just
to be
as
all
strong
right
as those
here.
in teenagers and young adults who get the regular strength
Let's
shots.
see.
I'm Ben Thomas.
Lawmakers are
Okay.
busy trying to figure out what to do with your tax money, and they don't agree. The AP's Julie
Okay,
Walker
so what's
reports.
that?
There was a vote expected today on a $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure package, but it's now postponed until Thursday amid ongoing negotiations. More immediately, the Senate has a
Okay, so let
vote
me
set
get
for
that.
today to keep the government
Honey,
funded
I
and
always
avert a
have a
federal
lot of
debt
things to set
default
up as I'm
before
going on
Thursday's
air.
deadline. That package
Todd.
stands to run into a blockade by Republican
So
senators,
excuse me.
all but ensuring lawmakers will have to try again later in the week.
Why did an Amtrak train go off the tracks in Montana over the weekend, killing 3 people?
Okay.
Investigators are trying to figure that out. 7 people still hospitalized.
Okay.
The train was on the way from Chicago to Seattle when it derailed outside the tiny town of Joplin, Montana.
All right. Hey,
Britain is considering
Linda.
sending
Hey,
in the
Louise. I've got
Army to
Pastor
help
Todd
deal with a
Geary on with
shortage
us.
of
You know, you all love him so much when he
There
gives
aren't
us
enough
good
available
news, and
truck
we need
drivers.
that.
The
Today, we're
pandemic
going to
is
be
a
talking about the
factor.
color of
Lines
immigration in
cars
the
are
United
forming this
States.
morning at some
I mean,
gas
really,
stations.
who's welcome here?
This is AP
Many people
News.
assumed as they looked at the Afghan
This is
people
8:20 a.m.
that they were
WCPT
people of
Willow
color.
Springs,
You know,
and streaming worldwide.
that's what they look like. But according to the U.S.
We are
U.S.
Chicago's
Immigration
progressive
Service
talk, where
and our
facts
standards,
matter.
they are white. And everybody gets a chance to be white. Interesting, and they
Chicago
get
traffic
certain
update.
privileges. And as we're watching the Afghan people,
We are looking
and they
at a
certainly
major
have
traffic
been,
jam now on eastbound
they certainly do
I-80
deserve
from the
to
Displays
have
River Bridge,
compensation from
Cherry
us.
Hill Road, where there's a crash
They're
in the
getting
left lane.
something, you know. And
Traffic had
when
already
you,
been a little bit
Reverend Geary,
congested
when
due
you
to an
speak to
earlier
black
collision
people,
at Gallagher. Now it's really a big backup.
you know,
See slow
there's a
traffic on
resentment,
the outbound
understandably,
Sayre
because
to
we
Harlem, and
haven't gotten our
westbound
40 acres and a
190
mule.
with airport traffic, River Road to Mannheim. It's 20 minutes from downtown Chicago to O'Hare. The inbound trip time is 17 minutes. The Eisenhower still good at 23 minutes, 390 to downtown. Stevenson, 22 minutes from the Veterans Memorial to Sabo Lakeshore Drive. Ryan, 13 minutes from 95th. Tri-State southbound, north of the Stevenson, there's a crash in the right lane. I'm Jim Talamonte.
This is a potter's field. When people can't pay for their funerals, they are buried here. It is a lonely, desolate place, littered with unmarked headstones. No one visits. No one leaves flowers. But it doesn't have to be that way. For as low as $1 a day, you can ensure your family will have the money to pay your funeral expenses. We offer burial insurance plans that pay up to $30.
All right, 60 seconds.
Considering the average funeral costs more than $10,000, that's peace of mind for your family. There are no medical exams, your rates won't increase, and your policy cannot be canceled as long as you make your premium payments. Call now to get approved in minutes and ensure your final resting place is more than just a pauper's grave in a potter's field.
800-323-8137. 800-323-8137. 800-323-8137. That's 800-323-8137. Paid for by Final Expense Direct.
PT 20, where facts matter. Remember when you get to work to hop over to WCPT820.com or the TuneIn Radio app and stream the Stephanie Miller Show. Weekdays 8 to 11 a.m. on Chicago's
Thank you,
Progressive
Devin. Let's
Talk,
have a great show.
where
God
facts
bless us
matter.
all. Let us bless everybody.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I'm Santita Jackson. It's a joy to be with you today. Call me or text me at 773-763-9278. 773-763. WCPT. If you text me, GWC, Injury Lawyers gives you the opportunity to do that. I want to hear your voices today. We're going to be talking about immigration. What is immigration in the United States? Who gets special privileges? How are people classified? What went so horribly wrong with the Haitians? And it's been an historical problem, but it has a lot to do with race, color. Absolutely. We're going to talk about that today. What is the color of immigration in the United States? What is it? It's always been color coded, everybody. We can't candy coat that, and we need to talk about that today. Devin, I'm getting some feedback, so let's work that out. But I'm so glad to be with you today. We're going to be talking about that. And did you see what happened on The View on Friday? That's right. So how do these tests really work? Because I told you, we went to, and Pastor Yuri can attest to this, he'll be coming up with the good news. We went to Tulsa a few months ago, and before you got in the room with President Biden, you had to take a COVID test, and you had to test positive. You had to test negative already. Now, the vice president was about to walk in there. You mean to tell me the ladies didn't know their status? I can't wait to talk to Dr. Deborah Verholden about that. How does that work? Right? Is there an echo still? Let me know, Linda, how, because we were trying to work this out. So I want to know what your thoughts are today about, those protocols. And then we're going to be talking with Dr. Shanita Knighton about how you should handle your social life. One of my goddaughters is a sophomore in college, and last year she was not able to live in the dorm because of the pandemic. Well, this year things are kind of loosening up a little bit. She's still not comfortable enough to go into the dorm, but she has like her bestie who she wants to have come over to the house. Oh, how do you do that? She has someone she's dating. How do you do that? I mean, and this is something that's happening to a lot of people now that we are beginning to go into the fall, and we're going into winter. People are going to be inside. Now we're going into the holiday season. We're going to start rolling out with Dr. Knighton and Dr. Verholden what the protocol should be in our homes, at work, just wherever we are. We need to know how to do this. So let's get to some of these headlines so I need some good news from Pastor Todd Yuri. So let me get right to it, everybody. Monday, September 27th, 2021. Let me wish my baby brother Yusef a happy birthday if he's listening this morning. Even if he's not, it was his birthday yesterday. I wished him yesterday happy birthday, and wishing him happy birthday today. And my baby sister, Jackie, her birthday is tomorrow. Yes, they were born 2 days apart, but several years. Everybody in Chicago, there will be a high of 83 degrees today. It will be sunny. Minneapolis, St. Paul, 70 degrees, it will be sunny. And in Major League Baseball, the Twins, they fell to the Blue Jays. Blue Jays 5, Twins 2. And the Cardinals, they were triumphant over the Cubs. The Cardinals 4, the Cubs 2, but the White Sox held it down, everybody, yesterday, 5-2 over Cleveland. And yesterday, it was a blowout, everybody. The Bears fell to the Browns. The Browns 26, the Bears 6. Ouch. But the Vikings, they were triumphant. Thank you. 30-17 over the Seattle Seahawks, everybody. And in Pfizer BioNTech will ask for authorization of its COVID-19 vaccine for children 5 to 11 in a matter of days, bringing the U.S. one step closer to vaccinating an age group that has become increasingly vulnerable. Nearly 26% of all COVID-19 recent cases nationwide were reported in children. Meanwhile, Pfizer booster shots are a go for people 65 and older, those with a high risk of severe illness with COVID-19, and those at high risk of exposure at work. About 20 million Americans are eligible for a third shot of the Pfizer vaccine, the White House's COVID-19 coordinator said. But Dr. Deborah Verholden said that is for the FDA to decide. We're going to ask her about that when she gets here. The House of Representatives will not vote on the $1 trillion infrastructure bill today as planned. Instead, it will vote on Thursday. The same day, Congress needs to come to an agreement to avoid a lapse in government funding so that we do not go into bankruptcy, everybody. So far, Democratic leaders have struggled to strike a deal among progressives and moderates on a top-line figure for the infrastructure bill or for a solid outline of its programs. The House Budget Committee did, however, vote on Saturday to pass the $3.5 trillion spending bill. out of committee and send it to the House floor, everybody. The Del Rio port of entry in Texas reopened this weekend. It's been cleared of the Haitian asylum seekers who more than 14,000 of them were there last week, signaling the effective end of a week-long crisis there that saw a surge of thousands of Haitian migrants. I wonder where they are, though. We're going to be talking about that today. Where are those thousands of people? Where were they sent? Were they sent back to Haiti? Were they sent into South and Central America? Where are they? I think we need to know. Indeed, Secretary Mayorkas of the Department of Homeland Security said that the deportations were justified because of COVID. According to him, the Centers for Disease Control has a Title 42 authority, that's a Trump provision, that we exercise to protect migrants themselves, to protect the local communities, our personnel, and the American public. The pandemic is not behind us. Title 42 is a public health policy, not an immigration policy. But it's very interesting. Afghan migrants are being given ivermectin. Now, they're saying that it's not for COVID-19. This is a controversial drug, if you will, that some people say actually treats and helps to cure people of COVID-19. Well, they said, actually we are giving it to them, but it's not as a prophylactic for COVID-19. I'd like to know the real story behind that, wouldn't you? To avert a debt ceiling calamity, Democrats are urged to finally kill the filibuster. Now, let's see. They didn't kill it for the voting rights, but they'll kill it for the money. Maybe they will. Moulin Rouge was the big winner last night in the Tony Awards. And I hope you noticed something really, really interesting. And I'm going to get this gentleman on the show because indeed he's a brother beloved, one of my dearest friends. The head of the American Theater Wing, which runs the Tonys. They're in charge of the nominations. They are in charge of the Tony Awards themselves, is a black man, Emilio Sosa. And he's one of the top designers, a Tony nominee himself. And it's the first time in history that a black man has been at the head. And you might have seen him last night looking so handsome in his blue velvet suit. Go ahead, Emilio. I'm going to get him on in a couple of days so that we can talk about that. History was made. Pastor Todd Yeary, Douglas Memorial Community Church. You're a lawyer. You're a theological scholar. You helped to run Rainbow Push. I don't know how you do it all, but you do. And you're going to give us some good news today because we need it. We need it. How are you today?
I am well, Santita. Thank you. We run out of money, so we get to print more money. I want that kind of hookup. I'm trying to figure that thing out. When my budget doesn't quite work out, I can always, work around it because all I got to do is turn on the printing press and just do some math. It's always amazing to me. I haven't figured out how do we get that benefit, but I'm still looking.
And your problem is what? I don't understand what your problem is. Okay.
If I'm good with what I got, because I can always go back and get more. I don't have any problems. Life is great. It's wonderful. It's my kind of party. Look, I'm really, really good because yesterday, the beauty of being in my situation, I get root for the Bears, different discussion. And also the Ravens at the same time. And Justin Tucker, who had actually missed a field goal in the game yesterday, set the NFL record yesterday. He kicked a 66-yard field goal with time expiring to win the game. So, I'm feeling pretty good. So, other than that, what could go wrong? So, I'm good. And I hope
no comment.
As well. Hey, don't hate the player, hate the game. I got an interesting text from one of our chairs that said something about, invoking religion at the end. We prayed real hard. I'm like, look, hey, my prayer got through and yours is coming. You'll get your turn. It's just next week, not today. So we win. Well, here we go. Good morning, Chicago. Good morning, Twin Cities. Come on, get up, get moving. Come on. Guess what? It's Monday morning. Life is good. You're alive. It's time to get moving. Put your feet on the floor. Feel the cool from under those covers. You know, fall is here, so we stay under those covers a little tighter. I need you to feel a little chill. It's going to remind you that it's time to get up, get moving, walk in your purpose. And as you get going, first thing I need you to do is take a deep breath of life. Fill your lungs and know that you're still here, you're still in it, and there's still more to be done. As you get that morning beverage going, whatever it is, that morning Joe, that hot tea, whatever might suit you, little OJ, let's get with it and get moving today. Here's what I was thinking. You know, Santita, without any awareness at all, at about 3:30 Eastern time on Wednesday, something happened, and it was actually the fall equinox. We actually had a season change in the middle of the day and didn't even know it. Mm-hmm. So I started thinking like this, my God, that's pretty amazing, because typically I'm pretty aware of what's going on, but I was going about, you know, doing what I do. And then I had to think about it, that the season that was there when I woke up had changed before I went to sleep in the same day. I said, you know what, this is amazing to me. I woke up in one season, but I went to bed in another season, and I never even saw it coming, except for the fact that I was just doing what I needed to do. What am I saying to you? I'm saying to you this morning that the one thing that you and I should never do is lose focus. Keep doing, being, achieving, pursuing who it is that God has called you to be. Because can I tell you something? When you go to the mirror this morning, I need you to do me a favor. Before you get into the makeup and the cover-up, I call it, right? We kind of focus on those fine details that annoy us because we think everybody's looking at the same blemishes that we see. Before you cover it up, I need you to pause for a moment, because in your reflection is all of the evidence that you will ever need that God does really, really awesome things. It starts with looking at the details of who you are. God made you intentionally, without apology, on purpose and with purpose. And so when you look at your hair, you look at your eyes, the smoothness, the texture of your skin, you have been uniquely put together to make a difference in the world. And so the one thing that you and I can do better than anybody else is try to be the best we that we can be, or the best us. I'm not sure what that is. I keep getting hung up on that thing. You look that up. Maybe you can help me with my grammar. But anyway, when we get there and we start figuring out that we're pursuing, doing what it is that we need to do, what we will find is that at the right time there'll be a shift from one season to another season, not because we've been sitting, watching, wondering, and marking the calendar, but because we've been so invested in being the best that we can be, that in that process, if we do what we do and we leave God to do what God does, those two things come together and it produces something. It's a word that often scares us, but I tell you, it's a great word. It leads to a change. I want to say to you, there's a change coming for you. There's going to be a shift. You're not going to see it. You're not even going to recognize the clock because you're going to be too busy being the best you that you can be. But I need you to recognize that you can start out in one place and go to bed that night in a different place. And the difference is you were so focused, FOCUS, on being the best you that you can be, you didn't have time to get caught up in when is my change coming. Just keep living. Just keep working. Just keep pursuing. And recognize that if you keep doing the one thing that I know, you a bad somebody because God made you that way. Go be the best you can be and change the world. And at the end of the day, the change that you're looking for will come here sooner than you could have anticipated because you're focused. So go focus. Change the world. Leave your fingerprint on the handiwork that God has laid out for you and make sure that the world recognizes that God made you on purpose and with purpose. And you're not going to change your mind about changing the world. Have a great day. Go change the world. We'll talk soon.
Bless your heart. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I needed that word today. I hope that blessed you as well. Call me at 773-763-WCPT, 773-763-9278. Pastor Todd Geary, the pastor of the Douglas Memorial Community Church in Baltimore. It's one of the iconic churches in the United States of America. You've got Abyssinian in New York, you've got Fellowship here, you've got the House of Hope, you've got some iconic churches of long-standing fame out in out in L.A. and just all over the country. And this is one of those churches, Ebenezer, of course, in Atlanta. And so we just thank God to be able to have access to such an anointed and such an anointed spirit and brilliant mind. Pastor Yuri, are you still there?
I am still here.
I've got your homegirl here, Dr. Deborah Furr-Holden, a world-renowned epidemiologist. She comes out of Johns Hopkins University, and in fact, she's at the medical school at at Michigan State University. Let me not make that mistake. And she is the Associate Dean of Public Health. She's there to construct their School of Public Health. Um, Dr. Furr-Holden, something amazing happened on Friday, and I'm asking Pastor Yuri to stay here because we had an interesting experience when we were in Tulsa, Pastor Yuri. We were going to be in the same room as President Biden, a couple of hundred of us, right, Dr. Yuri?
That's right.
Just a couple hundred. This is when he was commemorating the Tulsa massacre, the first American president to do so, first. And so, that morning, Bishop Carlton Pearson, because he is Tulsa, came over to the hotel because he'd arranged for us to get COVID tests. He said, because you can't get in the room with the president unless you have a COVID test and you test negative. Right, Pastor Yuri?
That's right.
I'm just looking for a witness. So I'm trying to figure out, Dr. Furr-Holden, how it is that the vice president was about to walk on set at The View. And everybody had been tested, but clearly they did not have their results yet. How does that work? Doc, you there?
Oh, I was waiting for the rest of the question.
Oh, no, I mean, it's like, I'm just trying to figure out.
Good morning. Because that worked just how that went. People are cutting corners. People have been cutting corners. And they've been doing things like saying, you need to be vaccinated. But what's more important is what's your status, right? Your status is more important than your COVID status. Current COVID status is probably more important than your vaccination status because you can be vaccinated and still contract COVID. But to require people to get a test and not require that they have a negative test result sort of defeats the point of requiring the test.
Well, let me ask you this.
It's just,
what should they have done with the audience? I mean, because the audience, they were not, and they ended up, Sonny Hostin and Anna Navarro, thankfully, ended up testing negative. They were retested. But the audience didn't know that. So my question is, should they have been confined to the studio and ABC? Should they have gone out to get rapid tests to it so they could at least have known before they left out of there? They just let them leave.
Yeah, rapid test, you can get your rapid test results in 15 minutes. There's no reason, for anybody to not, require and have those kinds of precautions in place. I think what people want to be very mindful of, and I'll tell you, this is happening all over the country. I'm in Maryland right now, and I think it's so refreshing to be here because here people wear masks. Where I live in Michigan, they don't wear masks. Mm. They don't wear masks in the stores. They don't wear masks out in public. They don't wear them indoors. You very rarely will find people wearing masks. Here, they're still under a mask mandate, and people actually honor, at least where I've been going, and the people that I've been seeing, they've been honoring the mask mandate. And so I went to a friend went to a comedy show and got a phone call the night before that you had to show up with a negative COVID test to get in. And don't you know, one of the people that went with them did not get the test and they would not let that person in. And the tickets were non-refundable. They have concerts here. You have to have a negative COVID test before you can enter. But guess what they were providing at the concert? On-site testing. On-site testing. So if you did not have the chance to get your negative test, within the 48 hours before the concert, You could step over to the side and you would be delayed 15 minutes and you could get tested and get your results right there on site. Now, you want to hear what's crazy about that? They had 2,500 people that came to this concert at a large venue downtown that not only did not come with a test, but refused to get a test on site. So they were turned away. And then of the 5,000 or so who, did come with the test or got the test on site, they had about 40, 50 of those that tested positive. So I think there's real value in this approach. Can you imagine in a crowd of, 5,000, you've got 50 that are positive? How many were those 50 in fact? I talked to a guy yesterday who is vaccinated and had COVID. And he said no one told him that you would maybe be silly. This is his exact words. He said, I got COVID and then I was silly for about 3 months. I said, we call that brain fog. He had brain fog after he contracted COVID for about 3 months. He said he went back to work and he just wasn't the same. He couldn't keep his thoughts straight. He wasn't on top of things the way that he normally was. And he said he got the vaccine because his doctor told him that could, if he were to get reinfected, that not only could reoccur, but it could be worse at reinfection. And he said, I couldn't risk that. He said that was the worst part of all. He said it was scary. He said for about 30 seconds when he had COVID, he thought he was going to die because he was just having that much trouble catching his breath. He never went to the hospital. He did recover the whole time at home. But he said he was very scared.
Sure.
Not being able to catch his breath was pretty scary. But he said the worst part for him, and he lost taste and smell. He went through everything. He said the social isolation was tough. He said what really bothered him the most was after he recovered, having the brain fog and not having all of his wits about him.
Well, you know what?
The 2 to 3 months.
I just want to know why people are not being treated. Because some people are getting therapeutics. You go home, you're having a hard time breathing, and they send you home. I don't understand that. You got to work with me on that. But we're going to be talking about these protocols that we need to follow when we are at home. You and I have talked about this, Dr. Deb. Because there's so much that we don't know how to do. More of the Santita Jackson Show. Going to be talking about the color of immigration in the United States at the top of the hour. Back in just a minute. Dr. Deb, who sends someone home who lets someone stay home if they're having a hard time breathing? That is crazy. And see,
I know, but here's the thing: most people with COVID are going to have a hard time breathing.
Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive on W.
Oh, okay. I'm like, give me something. Really? And I say that as someone who's a veteran of pneumonia. Okay, I've had it several times because I have viral pneumonia. And when I get run down, really run down, I really work on not letting that happen now. I get pneumonia, and it has recurred. I've had it, my father's had it 6 times. I got him by 1. I've had it 7 times. The last time I had it, the last time I had it, the last 2, you never have an easy time with pneumonia. But the last couple of times, in the middle of the night, I wondered if I was going to make it. Because you're afraid to go to sleep, and if you're in the hospital, they really keep coming in and waking you up. Because I can understand how you could just drift away in the middle of the night because you're so exhausted. You could fall asleep, but you can't breathe. And I just don't understand how the governor of Texas, fully vaccinated, tested positive, and they gave him Regeneron immediately, so that the COVID would not get worse.
Sending Dr. Knighton through.
I don't understand how that is not. I don't understand how that is not the regular course of action for everybody. If you're diagnosed with cancer, they send you to an oncologist immediately. Do you want chemo, radiation? We got to all this other stuff. If I get pneumonia, they give me something. For viral pneumonia, it really has to play itself out. But for the secondary infections, they treat those. I don't get it. Dr. Knighton, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, look, I'm sitting up here trying to find out, get some information from you and Dr. Deb, because I was trying to figure out what happened on The View, how these people how they get tested. I'm like, do they just test you and just tell you to go on set? They don't tell you whether you find out on set whether you've been tested, whether you're positive or not. I mean, that is the craziest thing in the world. It's crazy. I mean, what's the point of the test if you don't wait to get the results before you are around people? Hello?
Yeah.
Dr. Deb, I'm sorry. That is just so bizarre to me. I'm like, crazy.
So, I mean, I get it. It's always been my, I would say, aggravation is that it kind of sends to me the message. Like, I understand we want to do tracing and see who has it, but I don't think that there's
60.
enough emphasis on teaching people how not to get it. I think that's crazy.
It is crazy, but we're going to go into. You can make a comment on it, but I'm so glad that Dr. Deb has brought you. First of all, I didn't even know what an infection preventionist was. I didn't even know you existed. But we do need to talk about how we're going to socialize now, because it's at the end of the week, it'll be October, which is November, which is the holiday season. People are going to have family get-togethers and such. How do you do that? And so I just have a series of questions for you and for Dr. Deb, because now we've got boosters and that's still a question. It's just so confusing, Dr. Furholden. It is so
10 seconds.
confusing. I don't know what to do. Stay right there. We're coming up.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey everybody, the Santita Jackson Show, Monday, September 27th, 2021. I am Santita Jackson. This is WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the Progressive Minnesota. And I want you to meet my morning stars, Joyce and Paula and Dave and Vanderlei down in Brazil, Dave up in Canada, all of you, Linda, Louise, Daphne, Andre, Jewel, so many of you, Laura and Francis, sending you all much love. Vicky and Linda, sending you all love, 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 love today. We're talking about, we're going to be talking about the color of immigration. What is the color of immigration? Does your color really matter in immigration in the United States? Of course it does. We're going to talk about that. We've not seen anything more. It's been so vividly put into our consciousness by the treatment of the Haitians, just historically, but last week, seeing them lashed by the horses. Come on, we have to look at how people are classified when they are brought to the United States. And right now we're talking COVID-19. We're talking about our health. We're moving into, now it is fall, it is autumn. And it is no longer summer. We are no longer really going to be outside. In a minute, it's about to get cool. People are coming indoors. So when you're coming indoors, as we are moving back into work, as we're moving back into trying to exist out in the world in a pandemic, now we're trying to figure out, okay, how do you do Christmas dinner, Thanksgiving dinner? This was brought to fore because I got five calls, Dr. Deborah Furholden, epidemiologist, associate dean of public health at Michigan State, and clinical research scholar from Case Western Reserve University, registered nurse, and infection preventionist, Dr. Shanina Knighton. I got 5 calls over the weekend, 5 people who listened to the show, and is gratifying because people are listening, but they wanted to speak to you both about protocols that need to be put into place in our homes. Okay, and people also want to know about these boosters, Dr. Deb. They do not know what to do. They don't know what to do. They really don't. So there's just a lot of confusion and unrest. One of my godchildren, bless her heart, she is in college and she's at home because last year, her first year, the pandemic, we're not going to be in the dormitories. But now she's still not in the dorm. She doesn't feel that comfortable. And I have a niece in college who is in the dorms, and and I can understand. I can understand where they both are. Um, Now she wants to bring her bestie home. And her parents want to encourage her to live her life because people have been locked away for almost 2 years. But you've got the whole family at home. So how do you do that? Um, how do you date? I mean, how do you socialize and how do you bring people into your home at this time? Let me start with you, Dr. Deb, and then we're going to roll over to the infection preventionist because she can help us with some protocols. I mean, what would you recommend? Because you're between Baltimore, Maryland, where you where people are masked and they, really are quite they're quite observant, you know. But you are in Michigan, where liberty, freedom, and all of that, where people actually carry guns into the state legislature, and they're. I mean, I'm not cracking. I'm just saying the two different cultures clearly at work here. So, what do you see?
Well, I have the 30,000-foot answer to your question of how you do this, and the answer would be very mindfully. It does take a fair amount of information and mindfulness to do this and to do it well. And I'll tell you, it was my twin aunt and uncle, Philip, my aunt Phyllis, and my uncle Philip's birthday on Saturday. And we had a small family gathering at my uncle Philip's house, fully outdoors. Most people were masked when they got there. They did not remain masked. And I noticed true to form with every gathering, as the alcohol began to pour, everything was out the window. At some point I looked over. There was a Soul Train line under this big covering that he has in the driveway. And people were laughing, and people were dancing, and people were singing. And it was a really great time had by all. But I looked around and I thought, even though we're outdoors, if somebody here has COVID, a bunch of us are going to have COVID. And then, of course, what happens, and this is the first, real family gathering I've been at since COVID. I had, my daughter, like your godchild, is a COVID graduate. She was the class of 2020. Mm-hmm. So she graduated in 2020. She started college remotely. And then she, for 2021, they're hybrid. Half her classes are online, and she's got 2 classes in person. I saw the protocols when we started, but as the day went on, they were gone. And then when everybody went to leave, they did what they always do when we leave at a family function, is you walk around and one by one, you hug everybody and tell them goodbye. So I had to be very honest with myself to say if there was any COVID at that family function, the chances of it having been spread were very high. And it was a strange, an awkward situation for me to be in because I didn't want to be the one who said to and in my family, living to be 65, 70 is a huge deal. There's a lot of people in my family died much younger than that. So 65, 70 is a huge deal. I didn't want to be the one to say, I'm sorry, I can't hug you, or no, please don't. What I did do is we kept the baby away from everybody, and we just sort of said that. So normally when everybody passes the baby around, we didn't do that. But I said to my daughter, and of course we have our little protocol. So when we got in the car, we cleaned out our noses, we did our hands, we gargled, we rinsed out our throats, we took those masks that we had that were useless because we didn't use them properly and they were on and off and up and down. But I said we were going to contaminate ourselves with these masks, so we got rid of those, and we did all of that. But I really, I'm looking at folks and I'm like, you got everybody in the building, in the party, out at the event, would have to be so mindful and committed to being together, but not spreading this virus if anybody were there. And I don't see how, I would love to hear what Dr. Knighton has to say, because I don't see how, unless everybody shares that commitment and has the knowledge and has agreed to it, I don't see how it will be possible otherwise.
Well, I mean, how do we have people come over to our homes? I mean, how do you? I mean, and particularly if someone's going to be a regular, Like, your best friend, and do they get tested? Do they do a rapid test? Now, mind you, in Europe, you can get, in different countries, you can get a rapid test for free, and you can test yourself literally every day. So how is this supposed to work, Dr. Knighton? How is this supposed to work? What are the protocols that you should set up at your home?
So I think first and foremost, and I just kind of want to bring this up when we talk about rapid tests or talk about any test to be able to detect infectious disease, right? That is when the viral shedding is at its highest, okay? And there's a certain threshold, let's say that viral shedding has to be at in order for it to detect COVID. So one thing that I always say is like, yes, tests are an indicator, just like you taking somebody's temperature at that particular time is an indicator. If that person, let's say, was on a cycle and they took a Tylenol, they could have had a fever, but it's going to be masked by the Tylenol, right? If someone was to get tested, it's an indicator that can help us decrease the chances of being around somebody with COVID, but it doesn't necessarily eliminate it. And so whether you had ability to test someone or not, which I'm not saying do not do, you still should be keeping up safety protocols. I always say this, first and foremost, is know who is coming and make sure that you have the ground rules set. So I've had events this summer, and I have not stopped socializing, but those that come to my home understand my rules and understand that there are going to be certain protocols in place. So, yes, everyone may have to do, nose procedures. They are also going to have to do gargling procedures. They're going to have to sanitize their hands. Like, this is a rule of thumb, like when you come, because I know that there are going to be some individuals that are going to be masked, unmasked, vaccinated, and unvaccinated. But just as Dr. Deb said, it does not mean, especially during this time where tomorrow is not promised for some of us, that we should stop socializing. And I'm sure all of us has lost someone during this time, and some of us may have regret. And so that is my first recommendation. The second thing, and I continue to say this, gather outside if you possibly can. If you got patio heaters or got access to patio heaters, space heaters, so where you can gather outside, we use outside air to exchange the air with inside air to decrease potential droplets of COVID that could be in the air. So being outside, even when it seems like the air is still, is one of the safest places to be. I can tell you that even when we were looking at the protest last year, there wasn't any increase in cases during the protest outside because it is moving air, or there was very rarely. It is people's behaviors outside that causes an increase in the spread. Be cautious of food that is self-serve. Be cautious of stacked cups, meaning that if you got to grab your cup, that means that you got to touch the cup on the beneath of it, right, in order to be able to remove your stack. That then places your hands around the rim of somebody else's cup. So when they go to drink it, you now have a contaminated cup with somebody else's hands that you don't know of. Make sure that there's hand sanitizer nearby. If you walk in and you peep out the scene that you don't even see hand sanitizer for people to have accessible ways to clean their hands, that's a concern. No ventilation. So coming into a packed space where there is no ventilation, no open air, people are talking and screaming over each other because the music is too loud. Music being loud where you can't hear somebody means that that's an increased spread of droplets because everybody going to be screaming, right? So you have to look at these things. Understand that some people that will try to come to your home, some people still think that this pandemic ain't real. You want to know those type of people so you can know not to invite them if you know that you're trying to keep up safety protocols. So those would be my recommendations. I also just want to say, too, like there is an article in Modern Women magazine from last year. There are some in USA Today, Good and Well. So if you look at that and actually Google that, then they share some safety protocols that I've shared with those outlets as well.
Well, when you say, so when someone comes into your home, just walk us through, what do you have them do?
It depends. Is this person a family member or is it a deliverer? Because that's a completely different conversation. So it gets that granular. So if I'm having somebody to come and service my TV, that's going to be different than my cousin coming over.
Okay, someone who's coming in to perform a service in your home, what do you have them do?
I'm talking to the company first, and I'm asking, in regards, I want to know their protocols. So, what is the protocols for your employees? Are they tested regularly? The individual that's coming out to my home, are they going to be masked up? What are the protocols that you have in place that's going to keep me safe while they're in my home? When they get to my home, I would actually be making sure that I sanitize their hands or asking them to wash their hands. If they are, let's say, working on my refrigerator, they would be in just that area working on a refrigerator so they wouldn't have a large blueprint going through my home. I would also give that individual space to be able to work, meaning that I'm not going to be hovering over them while they're working or in the same space with them unless they need to be able to ask me questions. And then even if they needed to ask me questions, I would even recommend, just so that way I can keep my distance from you, I'll be in the other room, but please make a phone call to me and we can talk about it unless there's something I need to see. I will make sure that even after they leave, I'm still continuing to clean doorknobs. I am disinfecting whatever material. If it was the fridge, I'm making sure that I clean that off after that person leaves. Even in the trail, sometimes of even walking through my home, I'll even run a mop. Like if it's through a hallway to a certain area, I'll run a mop just in case some droplets did fall, particularly because I know how children are, and children like to be on the floor. So these are some of the things that I would have laid out. So I would want to know that these things are in place. And my one thing that I'm going to emphasize to everybody is that if you are not planning it and making some sort of agreement with the individuals that are coming to visit, then that is where you're going to ultimately fail. It is important that you have this dialogue before anyone shows up at your home. And this is whether they're family or not. Because I don't know about y'all, but my family sometimes say, oh, well, I'm bringing such and such with me. And I'm like, no, you ain't. It's like you kind of just got to let people know what you want to look like, how you are. And nothing's wrong with that because that gives them the decision whether or not they want to come visit.
Should they take a test, COVID test before they come into your home? And if so, should they bring the results? I mean, how should that work?
So the thing is this then comes down to an equity issue. Everyone may not have access to tests, okay? So that is nice that if they do have that ability to be able to test someone before they come in, and just understand that that is one measure. But even if that person has a test, does that test then cause you to relax your protocols? Because unconsciously, it's just like with the vaccines, right? Somebody tell you that they're vaccinated and all of a sudden, like, infection prevention and control goes out the window. Mm-hmm. So you have to ensure that even if you are asking someone to take tests and their tests come back negative, that does not mean drop your safety protocols because you never know.
Dr. Deborah Holden, I was speaking with a friend of mine yesterday who is from Europe, and he said, it's amazing to me, in the UK, I just go to a place and the tests are free. They're free. And equity is your thing. As we're still in this pandemic, we're moving into an election season. What should we be asking for as people are voting? I mean, on the local, state, and federal levels, as we're voting for representatives, should we have free testing? I mean, just to be able to go to the drugstore and pick up a test, it shouldn't cost us anything. And treatment can be cost prohibitive as well. What should we be asking for, Dr. Verholden?
Well, we have a fair amount of freely available testing here as well. Mm-hmm. The difference is, and having been tested, now many, many times, what is happening is if you have insurance, they want your insurance information. If you don't have insurance, most places will give you the test anyway. Some of the rapid tests are not available to everybody if you do not have insurance. And so you really and it varies community by community, so you just have to know where free testing is available. And like I said, even in places where they have free testing, if you have insurance, they will ask you for your insurance information and bill your insurance. So all of that stuff needs to be in place. and all of the things that people need to be safe need to be in place. I think we have missed the opportunity. So, for example, if people are going to be required to report back to the office should be providing all of these things: hand sanitizer, masks for not just regular employees but also visitors, to the buildings. The problem is we don't have a whole lot of national policy, so it really is hit or miss, and it's going person by person, company by company, industry by industry. The universities came together in Michigan, Wayne State, University of Michigan and Michigan State, and they decided all at the same time, and they did a joint announcement that they were going to be mandating vaccinations for all students, staff, and employees. And that includes contractors who come on campus. You are basically not allowed on campus if you are unvaccinated. And they gave everybody a by-when date. They needed to have that, and now they've got the system in place to verify that. You have to go online, and it's the attestation statement. You have to attest that, in fact, you are vaccinated. You got to put in the dates of your 2 vaccines, and then you got to put in the batch number of the vaccine that you got. So they've got some things in place. And can people lie? Of course they can. But there's a penalty for that. So you risk losing your standing if you, in fact, lie about that information. So I think what we really need is some policy around it. And the policy needs to be equity-centered. I think done not such a great job because this work around equity is nothing that you can just do from goodwill or good intention. There are people actually really steeped in the work of equity with a long history of doing the work of equity, and those people need to be in the conversation at the table, calling the shots and helping to frame the initiatives, because a lot of what we've done is actually furthered inequity, and a lot of what I think could be done could actually further inequity. So we need policies that are equity-centered. We need some policies that are national. And to piggyback on something that Dr. Knighton pointed to, it's really unfortunate that we did not take this opportunity with all the money that's being spent and elevate occupational safety and standards. There should have been, I can only imagine, it's probably occupational and residential. I think about how many, public housing buildings don't have moving air, how many public schools don't have moving air, how many places have outdated ventilation systems that we could have, instead of providing these, basically $1 million, no interest, forgivable loans to companies, many of who just used them for investments. They weren't using them to make payroll. They weren't using them for some of those other things. Instead of using those resources to take the opportunity to make just safer and healthier environments all the way around the board, we kind of missed that mark. It's not too late. We can still go back and do that. Mm-hmm. But those are the kinds of policies that I'd like to see. And the kind of investment.
But that's what I'm asking. To me, that's where the policy discussion comes in, because now as we are fighting for infrastructure, we should be fighting for that, because COVID pulled back the covers on the things that we absolutely need, not on what we want, but on what we need. And you were about to say something, Dr. Knight, and I got about a minute for you.
Got it. And I was just getting ready to echo in regards to policy. I got so many phone calls from people that stayed in apartment complexes and in community living that there were no reporting mechanisms, and that they had to find out through the grapevine that people, had COVID. And so or that there would be outbreaks in their buildings. Like one building actually had it where they didn't find out until the CDC showed up, or a representative, like just to do testing, like to say, hey, no, we have to do testing. And so just even through that came a lot of these recommendations for people to take the stairs, for elevators with no ventilation, just remember that that's staggering droplets in the air. But the other piece, and I'm going to get off topic, but it's on topic, is I have a concern that we can mandate, vaccinations for patients, but we can't mandate hand hygiene education in hospitals for patients and in long-term care facilities. That still continues to be a concern of mine, because if we literally recognize that these droplets are going to be transmitted, some of these individuals come to the hospital sick shedding viral pathogens of COVID and other things, why will we not be making sure that patients are cleaning their hands to be able to keep themselves safe, other patients safe, as well as staff safe, as well as even to some of their visitors? When we talk about policy, I am working on policy in the state of Ohio, which is House Bill 628 towards that. But I think that we need a lot more of that around the country in order for us to be able to understand that people can keep themselves safe even when they're in the hospital.
And mandate therapeutics, please. Medicine, please. Please, I want everyone to be able to get the opportunity to get Regeneron or these monoclonal antibodies or polyclonal antibodies. I want them to be able to get treated. So what happened to them does not happen. What happened to that boy in Atlanta who couldn't get treated when he presented to himself to the hospital twice? I want to see that too. Dr. Deb, I literally have 60 seconds and they belong to you.
Well, I think Dr. Knighton has given us some very, very good tools and some good knowledge. This was the point I was making as I described my own family function. I had a conversation with my uncle in advance to find out if he had had any of these conversations with people in advance. And basically he had not. So I knew that there would be no way at that point to ensure that the event would be an event that we could ensure that the sort of optimal level of safety and protection was in place. So it's about preparation. And I think that's the thing that people are going to have to confront, because what do we have not too far down the pipe? We've got the holidays coming.
They're here.
At the end of next month, it'll be one of my favorite times of the year, Halloween. I love seeing all the kids in their little costumes and them showing up at the door and yelling out trick or treat and giving them candy. I love it. I love that whole time of the year. Right after that, we'll have Thanksgiving, and then right after that, we'll have Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
What we don't want to have is these holidays serve and function the way they have in the past, which is you'll have these holidays, and in the 2 to 3 weeks that follow, we start to see an uptick in cases.
Absolutely.
And sickness. Can you imagine your Christmas dinner having been the super spreader of it in your family?
No.
No one wants that.
But
This
guess
is
what?
Also something that we need now. Yeah,
This is where we are. This is where we are. That's why we're going to be talking about this every day going forward, because you need to know what the protocols are, because we don't know. Dr. Deborah Verholden, Associate Dean of Public Health at Michigan State University. Dr. Shanina Knighton, registered nurse, infection preventionist. Boy, we're so blessed to have you all every day, helping us to understand exactly what we need to do. What is the color of immigration in the United States of America? How is it that whiteness is so, someone said it's like taffy. It's really flexible. More and more people, as we're hearing about the browning and blackening of America, more and more people are being considered white. Isn't that interesting? Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a minute. Dr. Deb? Dr. Shanina? And Dr. Deb, I appreciated that note, but I've noticed that on my Uber, that you can contribute to the Afghans while they're getting, they're getting ivermectin, right? Just thought you should know that.
Yeah, it's interesting to watch how, and that's a company, right? The company has a right to do whatever they choose. It's their company, right?
Yeah.
But it's the same thing that reminded me being in an academic environment. And I actually have a paper coming out now talking about this, where the academic institutions will respond to global events, but not seminal race events that happen right here in our own country. And what we've done is we've now proven that has an impact on student mental health and student performance, particularly medical students. When universities don't address these race events that are happening in the country, and at the same time will address other events that are happening across the globe, it sends a signal to the students. It actually occurs for many people as another form of discrimination and microaggression. So that's what I feel. And I feel bad because I don't ever want to compare tragedy, nor do I think that any group is less deserving or more deserving. Or I don't want to take anything away from anybody, but the reality of it is we have to have a real reckoning and say, we just treat certain people like they're less than human. And those people tend to be black and brown people. And the blacker or browner you are, the more severe the inhumane treatment tends to be. And that's what we're seeing right now with these Haitians who are no less deserving or in need of help than the Afghani refugees. And it is infuriating to me. Because these are probably well-meaning people who just their own bias. But see, when you hold the cards and you got the power and the privilege, what about the support for the Haitians? I thought my mouth dropped. I said Uber has set this whole thing up where you can donate rides and money and all that right through the app for the Afghani refugees, but nothing for the Haitians who are still living under bridges at the border right now.
Look, that's what we're talking about this because look, when attorney Anastasi Sanat, she's the incoming president of the Haitian American Lawyers Association of Illinois, when she said, oh, no, the Afghans are considered white. See, people from the Middle East come into the United States as white people. And that means a lot. The only people who cannot pass into whiteness are blackness people. So I have exactly lines, but you know what? It's a conversation that we're having, and it's a lot. That one of the headlines, Haitians said the Haitians are angry. They said they treated us like animals. You darn tootin' they did. Treated them like animals. Treated us like animals, and that's what it is. You know, it's terrible. It's terrible. And I think the Biden administration needs to answer for that. They really do. Because this was not supposed to happen. You know, this is a continuation. I mean, if this happened during President Trump's watch, we'd be up in arms. But now we're like, oh well, you know, this is terrible. No. You need to be marching too. How about that? Don't play with people. You play with a puppy, they will lick you in the mouth. Girl, love you. Thank you. Girl, you know, I get wound up. You all get me wound up in the morning. Thank you. Okay, who do we have here with us right now? Oh, gosh. Thank you, Paula. I'm glad you like what I've been doing with my eyes here. I'm still trying to work it out. I haven't quite perfected it yet, but I will. I just remember one of my friends. You you should make up your eye according to the shape of your eye, and I understand that more now than I did even a few months ago. You know, because I was just told to go just over my lid, but my eye goes up like this. I have eyes like my mom, and so deep inset, and then I've got a high fold. So it means I should make myself up a particular way. So you know, I'm learning.
Sending everyone through.
Oh, who do we have?
We got Attorney Sanat, Attorney Patillo, Dwight McKee, Attorney Hoffler.
Oh, wonderful.
Good morning, Attorney Hoffler. Good morning, Santita.
Good morning, and I've got Attorney Sanat, and I've got Dwight McKee and Attorney Patillo. Attorney Sanat is going to have to leave us at the bottom of the hour, so I'm going to have her give us this powerful opening statement. But, you know, I've been doing a lot of thinking and a lot of just the color of immigration in the United States. What is that? Well, Vicki Wells, you said, Afghans may be considered white by politicians that started the war over there, but trust me, at Fort McCoy here in Wisconsin, they know they're not. But guess what? Trust me, about a generation or so in, they will be. And that becomes a problem, right? Because everybody comes here and they come here, you know, as a bedurned or bedraggled, you know, beaten down person of color. Then a generation in, they're not. And then they start kicking black people in the behind. And that is not going to work. I think we need to talk about that because when you talk about privilege, you have to talk about the elasticity of whiteness because it is elastic. It covers a whole lot of people, everybody except black folks. How about that? Now, I don't want to be white. And I think that God made everybody. Everybody's beautiful
60 seconds.
in our own way. Okay? So this is not about slamming anybody. This is about slamming the concept of supremacy, wherever it comes from. Okay, so we got a wonderful panel with us today, so we're going to get right to it. Love you. It's good to hear everyone. Robert, let me hear you.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Dwight, let me hear you.
Hey, how you doing?
Okay, great. You're not on speaker, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, if you can come off speaker, that would be great. Attorney?
Yes.
Okay, great. Attorney Hoffler.
Good morning.
Okay, great. All right, we're coming
10
up.
seconds, everyone.
Thank you, Paula, because you love rants too. She says she lives for my little rants.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Santita Jackson Show. It's Monday, September 27th, 2021. Wishing my brother Yusuf happy birthday. It was his birthday yesterday. My baby sister's birthday, Jackie's birthday will be Dr. Jackson's birthday will be tomorrow. Yay! Happy birthday to you all. I'm Santita Jackson, coming to you from WCPT, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. I want you to meet my morning stars on Facebook on the Santita Jackson and Friends page. And hey, we're back up on WCPT 820's Facebook page as well. Everybody like and share, like and share. We're also on my YouTube channel, the Santita Jackson Show channel. Please, everybody, Vanderlei down in Brazil, like and subscribe. And Dave up in the north, up in Canada, like and subscribe, and everybody in between and outside to the west and to the east, everybody like and subscribe on the Santita Jackson Show channel. Everybody, we've got a lot to talk about. The color of immigration. What is it? What is? Why are some people considered white? You might be surprised who is, and others not. How does that? As we're looking at the browning of America. Some people are not so brown. Going to talk about that on the Santita Jackson Show. Call me or text me at 773-763-9278, 773-763, WCPT. And if you text me, GWC Injury Lawyers gives you that opportunity, but I want to hear your voices today. I want to hear your thoughts about the color of immigration in the United States. As we have seen, we did not see even our Mexican brothers and sisters get whipped by the lash at the border by men on horseback. No. We've only seen that happen to the blackest among us, the Haitians. What is up with that? Everybody in Chicago, we're going to have a high of 83 degrees. It will be sunny. Minneapolis, St. Paul, a high of 78 degrees. It will be sunny. And in Major League Baseball, well, the Twins, they fell to the Blue Jays. 5 Blue Jays and the Twins 2. And the Cubs, they fell to the Cardinals. Cardinals 4, the Cubs 2. The White Sox, however, were triumphant. Yay! 5-2 over Cleveland. And we had a tough time in football yesterday. The Bears 6. Ooh. Cleveland 26. Ouch. But the Vikings were triumphant 30 to the Seahawks 17, everybody. Pfizer BioNTech will ask for authorization of its COVID-19 vaccine for children ages 5 to 11 in a matter of days, bringing the U.S. one step closer to vaccinating an age group that has become increasingly vulnerable. Nearly 26% of all COVID-19 recent cases nationwide were reported in children, everybody. In the meantime, the House will not vote on the $1 trillion infrastructure bill today as planned. Instead, it will vote on Thursday, the same day Congress needs to come to an agreement to avoid a lapse in government funding. So far, Democratic leaders have struggled to strike a deal among progressives and moderates on a top-line figure for the infrastructure bill or for a solid outline of its programs. In the meantime, the House Budget Committee did, however, vote Saturday to pass a $3.5 trillion spending bill out of committee and send it to the House floor. So what do you think, everybody? Will we go into bankruptcy? We're going to talk about that. And it's the Department of Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas said that the Haitian deportations were justified because of COVID. Wow. In the meantime, we're seeing that Afghan refugees are receiving ivermectin. Now, that's a controversial treatment for COVID-19. Now, they're saying that they're not getting it for COVID-19, although some people allege that that is true. It is an anti-parasitic. They're not getting the animal-grade ivermectin, everybody. They're getting the human-grade ivermectin, which is something that's been used in the United States and all around the world for decades now. So we're going to talk about the Haitians now. They said they treated us like animals. That is according to this story in the Guardian. And even as President Biden decried the outrageous treatment of Haitians at the border, he kept on deporting them. And then here's the headline from the Daily Beast. Biden's black allies are pissed. And those were Congresswoman Maxine Waters' words as they are following the Trump policy with Haitians. So what do you think about that? What does this say about America's policies with respect to immigration? I mean, is all immigration equal, everybody? Is everybody treated fairly? And how are people classified racially, and does that matter? I want you to call me or text me at 773-763-9278, 773-763 WCPT. Does it surprise you that Afghan refugees, when they are brought to the United States, racially, they're classified as white? Does that matter? Should it matter? Shouldn't matter, but does it matter? Of course it does. So we're going to talk with our fantastic panel about this so that we can get some clarity on this. Starting things off, we have got Attorney C.K. Hoffler, past national president of the National Bar Association, the largest and oldest black bar association in the world. And she's hosts her own show on WAOK, the iconic talk radio station in Atlanta, every Tuesday at 11, and of course 11 Eastern time. And of course, she's legal Q&A with CK on the Santita Jackson Show on Wednesdays. And we have got Attorney Robert Patillo, who is the director of Rainbow Push Atlanta. He has his own fantastic radio show every Sunday from 1 to 4 Eastern Standard Time on WAOK as well. Boy, they've got a power-packed lineup there. And Dwight McKee, a noted social scientist, who's going to be talking with us about the color of immigration. But we'll let you start things off. The incoming president of the Haitian American Lawyers Association of Illinois, the brilliant attorney Anastasia Sinat. You got to help me with this. The color of immigration is there? I mean, is there color, or is it colorblind?
Oh, sure, absolutely. I mean, U.S. policy is just something, or U.S. immigration law, I should say. Policy is different than law. The law is written, right? So the law of the United States has always had a color component to it. I think I mentioned it yesterday, but it begs to mention again. There was someone from India that wanted to be categorized as Aryan, as a free white person, because back then, those were the people that were able to naturalize. And so in that case, the United States Supreme Court determined that he was not white. And because he was not a white person, he was unable to naturalize. Obviously, we've changed the laws over the years. And of course, people who are white, black, what have you, can now naturalize. But we still classify people under the U.S. Census Bureau. The Office of Management and Budget, OMB, standards of race and ethnicity are what guides the United States in classifying people's written responses to race. So, for example, white, a person having origins in any of the original peoples of Europe, the Middle East, or North Africa. Okay? So if you're Moroccan, Algerian, Libyan, Egyptian, although you come to the United States and you're technically African American, you're considered white because you're from North Africa, right? Same with the Afghani people. They're Middle Eastern, and because they're Middle Eastern, they're considered white, okay? Now, black or African American, a person having origins in any of the black racial groups of Africa. Now, that seems kind of a little strange because they're defining black with black, so we know what they mean, though, right? So even though an Egyptian is from a racial group of Africa and they don't consider themselves white, here in the United States they are, and they're not considered black. So we have a situation when it comes to U.S. immigration policy where there are laws that are clearly designed to benefit those that are categorized as white and those that are categorized as black. So it's not something that one cannot read. It's not something that the system of laws is unclear. These are just what exists.
Robert Patillo, your thoughts?
Sorry.
I mean, it's absolutely insane. Well, Dwight McKee, you tell me, are you surprised by this?
Am I surprised? No, not at all. For those of us, you have to understand what immigration law was always designed to do and what the purpose of America was. The purpose of America has always been to give Europeans a refuge so they can come and be free to get rich, to set up free enterprise that is, they could enter and claim the prize. And the prize was an opportunity to get rich off of the land of the natives and the backs of stolen blacks that they brought over here to work in their behalf. So immigration policy has always reflected that reality. We always talk about, and Reverend Sharpton brought this out yesterday in his show, we always talk about Ellis Island, which is the pathway that Europeans came over. We almost never talk about Angel Island, which is the path that Asians came over from the West to immigrate to America. In the Ellis Island, which was the path of the whites, there was about a 2% rejection quota. Angel Island had about a 60% rejection quota when it came to Asians over here, because the purpose of immigration has always been to bring more whites over here so they could dominate the culture, so they could stay in charge. So the fact that we've always a system who's denied the entrance of non-whites into this country would have been antithetical to the whole purpose of the country, that is to allow more blacks to come in who could compete against those Europeans who came in, who saw this as their white utopia.
Attorney C.K. Hoffler, your thoughts?
Well, I think we know this is the case, and it's the ultimate hypocrisy that we see in our nation, because those students from North Africa, if they're applying for student loans or once they're here, if they're applying for benefits, they can check African American. So if they wanted to receive the benefit of, because there are some benefits from time to time limited to being African American in this country, they certainly could check that and could receive the benefits that we would receive as African Americans. But they would get privileged status coming from North Africa and any place really that has people who are slightly lighter, even though there are Egyptians, there are Libyans, there are Moroccans that are darker than some of us here in the U.S. I mean, that's the fallacy behind all of that. They can pivot, and they have the option of, for purposes of seeking asylum or getting certain immigration status, being classified as white. But when it comes to other benefits, once they get here, they can benefit from what we as African Americans, which is what they are too, can benefit from. And by the way, I've never met, and I have lived and traveled extensively, I've yet to meet anyone from Egypt, Morocco, Algeria, and Libya that would consider themselves white unless they were actually of European descent there. There's certainly Italians and Europeans that colonize those countries, and so that are from there, and their families grew up there. But the ones that look like you and me, I have never, ever, ever heard them classify themselves when they're talking as white. So that is what we use here in the United States, and it's come much in our face that we are watching cowboys whip black people. That's just even... The mere notion is disgusting. It's disgusting.
Well, I want to know what you're thinking, everybody. Look, I got a call from James. James from Chicago. James, what's on your mind?
Hi, ma'am. Thanks for letting me on.
Of course.
The last had mentioned about cowboys whipping blacks. When I saw excerpts of that on the news, again, James from Harvey, I saw excerpts that from the news. It gave me the impression that I did not want my 7-year-old grandson, to see those excerpts. I didn't want those images to be a part of his thinking as he got older. But he needs to know the truth. As long as we are held bent on our religion that forces us to need a shelter, an imaginary shelter, in transition and in afterlife, because we're so seem to find our way when it comes to standing up on our own and being a people with a culture that can actually support itself. Other cultures have done it. They've been successful at it, but we just simply have a problem with it. Hence, again, with our murder rates of ourselves here in Chicago every weekend we're hearing in the news.
But James, let me ask you this. Let me just. But James,
we can't seem to find the solution. What do we do? What do we do with how we're just deteriorating? The time Dr. King came in, our religion. I'm sorry, ma'am. I need to say this real fast.
No,
our religion has stupefied us to a point where we're so afraid of doing anything for ourselves on a wide scale level as a culture and a people because we're so afraid of what
James, I want to engage you, but that's untrue. What Tulsa has shown us, and we have had countless Tulsas throughout our history, Black people have always tried and have worked and have gotten ahead, and we have been thwarted. The first time bombs were dropped on American soil was by our military on a successful Black community, by jealous white people. There's nothing wrong with Black folks. There's something wrong with people who oppress us and who willingly and willfully kill us. I am tired of hearing that narrative about all that Black folks are not doing, not looking at what people have done to us. Stop it. Stop it. It's true. Black people have worked hard. We've been extremely successful. We were the striving community coming out of slavery. But you know what happened? We had bombs dropped on us. You know what happened? We were lynched. And sometimes they would lynch your loved one and put them at the front door and dare you to take them down. Are you kidding me? There's nothing wrong with Black folks. Something wrong with the circumstances we've been in. There's nothing wrong with indigenous people. There's something wrong with the circumstances they've been in. And you can just keep on going down the line. Looking at what's wrong with me and not looking at what's wrong with the broader culture that messes with me. How about that? Are you still there, James?
Talk it out and not get angry about it and bring some sense to it all, some logical sense to it.
I'm saying we have made a lot of progress here. We have done a lot here. But for us to continue to look, we're always poking at Black people, James.
On the phone to someone else, and he's only 7 now.
Yeah, but you know what? At least explain it to your child so they'll know what to fight. Because let me tell you, when you don't arm your child, that's when they get hurt out here. I was on a picket line at 7, James. James, I was on a picket line at 7. And my parents were explaining to us when we were babies what we were going to be up against, so we were not surprised. With my little Jewish friends, they send their children to Hebrew school and they let their children, the Holocaust is as real to them as grandparents and on and on and on and on.
Santina, why is as Black people, why is our religious issue so taboo?
There's nothing wrong with our religion. There's nothing wrong with the religion, Dr. King, that inspired Dr. King, that inspired others. It got us free. There's nothing wrong with our religion. There's nothing wrong with me. There's something wrong with my oppressor. Why don't you start looking at him and her and start taking them apart?
My oppressor is the religion.
And your oppression, and I would venture to say,
the religion is the oppressor.
Well, you know what, I fully you, and you know what, you have made your point. But I've got 2 minutes here left for Attorney Sanat. I just don't think religion is the oppressor. I think the oppressor is the oppressor, and you can pervert anything that is good. You know, the thing is, your religion should drive your politics. Your politics should not drive your religion. And that is the problem here. The so-called religious right, no, they're just right-wingers who use Jesus, who use the language of Jesus. But Jesus would not withhold food from anyone. Jesus wouldn't lynch anyone. Do you think Jesus would really have an after church activity where he'd lynch people? For real? That's not Christian. Attorney Sanat, what should we be looking at?
Yeah. Well, we should be looking at the law. I mean, I know I sound redundant, but if people really want things to change, you just have to change the law. For example, I think you brought it up earlier in your statement when you were engaging James, the caller. You were talking about the indigenous people. I'm not sure if America even knows that the Native Americans weren't even given citizenship in the United States until 1924. On June 2nd, 1924, Congress enacted what they called the Indian Citizenship Act, which granted citizenship to all Native Americans born in the United States, the right to vote. And it was unfortunately governed by state law until 1957. And of course, you know, some of those states barred Native Americans from voting. But of course, now we don't have that situation. But when we look at our laws and we look at the trajectory of where laws have come from, that's where we need to do. That's how we need to fight it. If you want the system of laws to stop being a system of racism, right? Classification of race and ethnicity, then you just have to go to your congressman, go to the House, go to the Senate, call them and let them know we're tired of this ill treatment. Let's change. Let's be fair. Let's invite people equally. Mm-hmm.
Amen to that. Amen to that. So everybody, I want to hear from you. Wow, I'm about to give you another radio show that I'm on. How about that? 773-763-9278. 773-763 WCPT. Want to hear your thoughts, everybody. What about the color of immigration? Let's talk about it. And you know, James, I love you, respect you, appreciate you, but I'm going to tell you something. I don't want to hear anyone else tell me what black folks ain't. What we have not done, what we are not, all we hear all the time, all that we are not. But you don't talk about the success of Tulsa and how their wealth, multi-generational wealth in Tulsa and throughout the country was stolen from them. You have not pathologized the people who dropped bombs on them, who killed them. Yeah, sometimes we need to let Pharaoh go, okay? Pharaoh let my people go, you let Pharaoh go. And you look at Pharaoh and look at him in his eye and understand who he is. And understand that the people who oppress you are just wicked, and it needs to stop. Stop beating down on people who have been trying to get up. Start giving people the responsibility who oppress you. Give them that responsibility and make them do right. Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show in just a few minutes. Oh, D-Ray, that was a horrible thing.
Okay, I have to go.
Sending you much love. You know, I had to go off today. Rants.
Yeah. Right. And don't forget to bring up the act prohibiting importation of slaves.
Can you say that?
Was started.
Can you say that at the top? Can you just say it? Just say it. Okay, I'm just gonna let you say it.
It's important that people understand when you're talking about oppression.
No, but you know, the thing is, what I'm reacting to is I'm always hearing from people all that black people are not and what we are not doing and what we have not done. And it is not true. We just came out of the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa massacre. We're finding out more and more, including bodies, every day. And no one, you get to Tulsa, no one wants to talk about the families that did this. Right. You just want to tell me what black folks, what could black people have done against people who decided they were going to shoot you, murder you, maim you, and burn you out? And you don't want to look at any of that. I'm saying stop absolving the people who oppress you of responsibility. Stop it. Don't be afraid of that, because most of us are afraid. We're still afraid. We're still on a plantation, and we're still afraid. We will blame each other instead of giving the responsibility to the person who's hurting you. You want to hurt me. I'm not going to have it. No. No. Put the responsibility where it is, right where it is now. Are there some things that anybody could be doing better, including black people? Absolutely. But you're going to give us credit for the things that we've done well and we've done right. Nobody does that. We've just discredited, and I am not going to have that. So, anyway, but I'm going to give that to you. You go right to it. Boom. Robert, you there? I think we had him on. Robert? Oh, okay. Well, keep him on mute. Dwight, I'm going to come to you into CK.
Yeah. I'll try calling him back.
Okay, thank you so much. But I'm going to come right to you, Attorney Sanat, and then Dwight, you can respond to Attorney Sanat, and we're going to keep on going. Okay, let me see. Okay. Oh, thank you, Dave. You're always so sweet. Stanley, you know what? I just think that what they need is, with the views. Did anyone see what happened with the View on Friday? Like there are.
Yeah, I'm not sure if all of that was real. Is that real?
Well, I mean, the thing
Or
is,
was
what's
that
real
fake?
is you're not supposed to get into a room with the president unless you have already tested negative for COVID-19. So I mean,
That's what I
either
was
either the
thinking.
tests are
Back in
for real
60,
or they're for
everyone.
show. Stand by. Like y'all can't be serious.
I wonder if she just didn't want to talk to Ann Navarro.
No,
And,
that's not it. They're just these people are not. They're not being. There is no standard for testing. Clearly, and there ought to be.
I was a little suspect on that one.
It just the whole thing was just it's stank. But what you're sending, the messages that you're sending to people, they're horrible, horrible messages. You're letting me know that testing really doesn't matter. And that's not true. Testing does matter. I'm doing all I can to
10
stay
seconds.
COVID negative so that I can make sure, so that I can help to take care of my parents. Testing are not a suggestion. They ought to be a requirement.
We can change the world, change the world, change the world. We can change the world, we can change the world, change the world.
This is the Santita Jackson Show.
War and hate to a place of love, it's not too late. Gotta save the children, we can't wait. Let's change the world.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Santita Jackson Show. Paula says she likes my rants today. Monday, September 27th, 2021, the Santita Jackson Show on WCPT 820, the nation's largest progressive talk radio station, and AM 950 radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. 773-763-9278 is the number. Attorney Sanat, I know you are running to your office right now. You wanted to let us know something else as we're talking about the color of immigration in the United States.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of go back a little bit to the importance of mentality, because you and the caller, James, kind of brought it up. Why is mentality so important? Well, if you look at the Act Prohibiting Importation of Slaves of 1807, that was the United States federal law that provided that no new slaves were permitted to be imported into the United States. It took effect on January 1st, 1808. And that was the earliest date permitted by the United States Constitution. Now, why did that happen? That happened due to the Haitian Revolution, because they didn't want the mentality of the successful slave revolt to, quote unquote, infect the minds of the slaves that were in the United States. They didn't want the successful slave revolt. Now, if you understand what I'm trying to explain is when we share our successes with each other, it fuels us to do more successful things. So I agree with you in the sense that, yes, we need to share more of our successes with each other. And that is an example of why it's important. And they knew it all the way back then.
Amen to that. Which is why I think Haiti continues to pay over and over and over and over again. Attorneys are not.
Yeah.
Because you got to make an example of these people who made an example of the empire. Okay?
Absolutely.
And that's why the story has to be told.
Thank you for having me. I reached the office and I got to go.
God bless you. Can't wait to have you back on the show.
Okay, thank you.
That's right, Attorney Anastasia Sanat. She's the incoming president of the Haitian American Lawyers Association of Illinois. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Of course, we're joined by Attorney C.K. Hoffler, National Bar Association, and Dwight McKee. What about making an example of Haiti?
Attorney Patillo's back too.
I mean, what about that? Yeah, I'm going to come to Attorney Patillo in a hot second. What about making an example of Haiti? What do you think about that?
Well, you have to also understand that the Haitian Revolution wasn't just put down by the French. It was a combination of the French and the Spanish and the British. And America participated in that. The European countries had to band together to take Haiti out. And the reason all of them banded together is because they didn't want Haiti to become an example to their own colonies. Is that the British had colonies that they didn't want the Haitians to be the point of reference for that they will revolt against Britain. The Spanish had colonies. They on the same island at one level, and they didn't want them to become an example to their colonies and their slaves. And so all of the European countries had a vested interest in reducing the Haiti's revolution to naught, because it was never going to be in their interest for the attitude and the spirit of the Haitians to infest the rest of the Africans. And that's why 200 years later, these same countries, by tradition, seek to reduce Haiti and to neutralize Haiti as a unit, so that they can never become the independent country, independent republic that they had become in the spirit of, the spirit of the French Revolution.
Absolutely. Attorney Robert Patillo, the current immigration in the United States. Talk to us about that.
Well, I think what we have to look at is just the U.S. policies that have been in place. We talked previously about the wet foot, dry foot policy with Cuban Americans. Many of us who are of a certain age can remember the divergence in treatment, particularly in the 1990s when Haitian migrants were trying to come in through Florida, and were literally being pushed back into the sea by United States Border Patrol and the Coast Guard, many of them to their deaths. Meanwhile, if a Cuban was able to make it onto the shores of the United States of America, they were given refuge and allowed to stay. If you remember Alien Gonzalez, the way that he was treated compared to the way that many Haitians were treated. This extends even further, however. If you look at the visa process for Africans to come to the United States of America, for example, that is more difficult for Africans to come here. You can be a Nigerian with a 4.0 GPA and every credential you need, but it's more difficult for you to come here than a student from Great Britain, let's say, or from Norway to be able to come to the United States of America because of very procedural issues. And even once you are here, the process of becoming naturalized as a citizen is very onerous, both financially and with regards to time and with regards to resources necessary to be able to do so. So we have to understand that there has been a bias in the American immigration system since the inception of the country. Give us your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free as long as they're white. People don't see that part at the bottom, but it's there somewhere, because when the tired, poor, huddled masses are coming from Africa, or even when they're coming from Central and South America, you don't see Lady Liberty down at the Mexican border. You see a border wall down there to let you know exactly what the priorities of America are. And even within the racism experienced by our brown brothers and sisters on the southern border, they are, white Americans often treat them almost as if some kind of invasion, like a locust or something along those lines. They are still treated better, and in many occasions, as we've seen in the last couple of weeks, then our Haitian and African brothers and sisters also come here along the same border. Part of it is that America in the last census is 20% Latino, Hispanic, Latinx, so whoever the verbiage may be, and therefore they have a very strong political lobby within the United States government, are a key electoral group when it comes to electoral politics. You know, the reason Texas is maybe a swing state is because of the Latino population. The same with Florida. However, the Haitian Americans don't have that same lobby. They don't have that same strength. So when an administration like the Biden administration is going through their terrible, no good, very bad summer, which is extending into the fall, they don't have any legislative victories. They're being criticized from all corners. That they want to have a show of strength, which I believe this latest roundup was. The easiest thing to do is to go after the Haitians, go after
after the black people because they don't have that same political lobby. And at the end of the day, they believe they have the black vote on lock. They understand intimately that the black vote is segmented. There's many black Americans who do not look at Haitians or Africans and see kinsmanship. You have the ADOS movement. You have the Foundational Black Americans movement who believe that somehow American blacks are different than other blacks in the diaspora. And so they took the gamble of saying that the mainstream media wouldn't really cover what's going on with Haitian Americans, and there wouldn't be much political blowback. And to date, they're for the most part right. The mainstream media is no longer covering this story. They've moved on to other issues. Republicans, their only criticism of Biden has been that he wasn't draconian enough with those Haitian migrants. And it's going to be up to us to hold the vanguard, to ensure that we keep this issue at the forefront and make sure that it does not happen again, because no one else is going to advocate for us. Those whole coalitions that we're part of often during election season, those are over the minute the election is over. You're not going to see, I haven't seen a lot of liberal white women standing up for Haitian migrants recently. I haven't seen a lot of these environmental movement people standing up for Haitian migrants. So it's going to be our job to make sure we're pushing the policy agenda necessary to stop this from happening to the people who come from the same places that we came from. They just got off the boat a couple stops before we did.
Where do you see this going politically in 2022? Because many people you saw, Maxine Waters, she was furious last week, and and she's still burning. Where do you see this going politically? Because even though President Biden decried this outrageous, as you put it, treatment of Haitians, they've still been deported, and now 15,000 people who were down there, they're all gone. Where are they, Robert? I mean, where are they? Where have they gone?
Biden and the crocodile tears, he could have just not said anything, instead of doing that, because he acts like he's not in charge. He made it seem like someone else did this. Like, no, you were the president. You were the one throat to choke, as Truman had on his desk. You are, the buck stops here. And he's still using Title 42 from the Trump administration in order to initiate these deportation processes. We heard Mayorkas this weekend, the Homeland Security director, saying that it was because of COVID that we had these rapid deportations of Haitians out of fear that they may have the coronavirus. Well, if there's fear they may have coronavirus, and you have half of America that's too afraid to take the vaccine because they think it's going to make them magnetic, or they think that it's going to be a microchip. Well, give the Haitian migrants the vaccine and then go through the normal asylum process. Listen, we can't let these folks off the hook. And this is the example I think people need to use. Look at Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin is from one of the poorest states in the United States of America, one of the least educated states in the United States of America, one of the states with the worst infrastructure, roads, highways, bridges in the United States of America, whose economy is basically based off of sending poor people underground to dig rocks out and to sell to the fossil fuel industry. That's pretty much the entire economy of West Virginia. And he's able to control the entire federal government right now because he stands strong in his position. We need to have our elected officials from our community stand just as strong in their positioning. Why should Joe Manchin have more power over American politics than every single black and brown person in this country has over immigration or over economic issues, over our asylum issues? And if we stood as strong as Joe Manchin does against us, for us, then I think we could actually make some progress on it. So politically, where this is going to go is you're going to start seeing a schism within the Democratic Party. Those people who are from more diverse districts, who are from more progressive, younger districts, particularly districts that have a large black, brown, Caribbean, Latino populations, places like Florida, New York, Boston, Atlanta, Chicago, so on, are going to start pushing harder for these issues. And then many of these more rural people like the Joe Manchins and the Christian Cinemas of the world are going to be trying to attract those conservative MAGA voters who want a strong border. For some reason, we still think we can bring back in the Rust Belt. And I think this has the chance of torpedoing the remainder of the Biden agenda. We're seeing right now that the $1.5 trillion or $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill is floundering because the House progressives will not vote on it until there's assurances that they're also going to pass the $3.5 trillion human infrastructure bill. I don't understand why within that human infrastructure bill, when they tried to deal with DACA within it, why they have not dealt with many of the issues of African Americans within that same bill, funding for elections, funding for criminal justice reform. Anything that can pass the reconciliation could have been placed within that bill. So you're seeing a lot of African Americans who are not particularly excited about where the Democratic Party is going right now, and it seems that Joe Biden is asleep at the wheel, especially when Republicans have been calling him Sleepy Joe for the last several years. You can't have a president who seems like they're not keyed into what's going on in the country, and they kind of get a morning briefing about what's actually going on and then coming up to give a speech on it. We're trying to see real leadership, and it's looking bad right now. It's always bad for the party in power in the midterm election after you win. It's looking like this may be a lose 10 to 20 seats instead of you lose 3 or 4 seats in the House. And giving Republicans back the House and the Senate means the entire Biden agenda will grind to a halt, and we really will see nothing for the next several years.
Dwight McKee, is President Biden clueless or callous?
No, he's not asleep at the wheel. He has the same beliefs as Joe Manchin, and what he does is hide behind him, so that he, under the guise of "this is my problem," when the fact of is they just use him to be able to throw at the issues that they really don't want passed anyway. If they were serious, they would go after Joe, and they would make him, force him, either by coercion or by bribery, force him in that state to do the right thing. But they allow him the freedom to run the government because it gives Joe Biden an out. So he does not have to deal with the issues that he is not trying to deal with anyway. I always say that Joe Biden plays to the right. And that even when we talked about the other day, even if you understand his Haitian position, is look at who he's playing to. He does act like he's not in charge, like these are not his policies, like this is somebody else. But who is he playing to? He's playing to Trump's crowd. He's saying to Trump's crowd, you don't need Trump. You got me. I keep these Negroes down. I will also beat them with whips. I see them like you see them, and I guarantee you that I will keep white people in charge and keep us the white majority. It is the same philosophy, it's the same guy, just one is slicker than the other.
Attorney C.K. Hoffler, you had 14 or 15,000 people at the border last week, and in a matter of days, they have been dispersed. Now, where are they? Do you have any idea? I mean,
well, we don't know where they are. We know where they're not. Where they were sent back to countries in Central America that they worked so hard to leave because of the not just COVID, but the conditions. They are back in Haiti. They're everywhere, but they're not in the United States. And I think that's a travesty. It's the way that they were treated that is a travesty. As it relates to our president, he has the power signed into law through executive orders. There are so many things that this president could have done. If you're outraged, you don't just say you're outraged. You speak and act on outrage. If you're devastated, you don't say you're devastated. You speak and act on that devastation. He had, in my impression, the power through executive order and other actions to be able to intervene because, after all, he is the president of the United States. This did happen in the United States, but that didn't happen. And the plan, which was in motion for a long time, by the time people started protesting and realizing what happened to the Haitian refugees, the ink was dry. They had already, the planes were ordered, the cowboys were there, the whips were purchased. They were on the third set of whips. So it happened very quickly, very efficiently, which is so interesting. When we want to do something, such as get rid of Haitian refugees, we act promptly, swiftly, with efficiency. When we want to pass when we want to pass a voting rights legislation, comprehensive voting rights legislation, policing reform, all of these things that matter, in my impression, to the Democrats at this time and to Black and brown people to change the quality of our lives, oh, we're moving at a snail's pace. We can't agree. We have Democrats don't know whether. That makes no sense, but it does make sense in U.S. politics. It makes no sense when you look at it from an ideological standpoint, but it does make sense from the standpoint of U.S. politics. So in my impression, if the president wanted there to be a different narrative, he could have made a different narrative possible. He didn't. And so now the question is going to be, what are people going to do about it? This is part of his policy. African Americans, Haitian Americans are African Americans. I mean, Haitian Americans are Black people. Part of we are the ones that saved his camp. We are the ones that got him elected. So if he, just like any other politician that we elect, is not putting forth an agenda and advocating an agenda that we feel is beneficial to our communities, we don't just need to sit and talk. We need to act on it. And I think that I believe that is happening, but this will be yesterday's news so quickly. Because, see, now they're gone. So what is the mainstream media going to report on? Well, why are people going to be interested? If the momentum doesn't continue, it will be yesterday's history. Nothing will be done until, by the way, the next group of Haitian refugees come forward. Because there is going to be another group that's coming. Why? Because the conditions in that country are not livable for most people right now, unfortunately. So there's going to be another group of people who, to save their lives, are going to try to migrate to the U.S. Because believe it or not, we are still the country that most immigrants want to come to for a chance at a better life. So we have to keep the pressure on this administration and showing the administration it's not accessible, not talking about it, but showing the administration.
Well, I'm wondering, where are we going to go from here? Because you're right, Attorney Hoffler. Now no one's no one's there. No one's under the bridge. But they are somewhere. And the mainstream media, this is where they are derelict, not negligent, derelict, and where they misdirect. They're not telling us, they're not reporting on where they are. But we need to ask the question, where are they? Where'd you take them? Many of them were dropped back in Haiti. These people have been away from Haiti for a decade, by and large. What about the children who were born there? If they were born on the United States side, which they were very careful to be, they were trying to keep them from there, then these mothers gave birth to American citizens who have a right to be here. I mean, to me, there are a lot of questions, Robert Patillo, that need to be asked and answered.
You're correct. And part of the issue is we don't have people in the media who are asking these questions and demanding answers to it. And this is why I say it's so important for us to keep this conversation going, keep the pressure up, and not take no for an answer when it comes to these things. We have to keep the pressure on our elected officials. We had the marches in solidarity with the Haitian community in Atlanta and other cities. And I went to the one in Atlanta. The turnout was disappointing, quite frankly, compared to what we've seen at other rallies. And as I said, where are our LGBTQ allies when it comes to rallying for Haitian Americans? Where are the feminist organizations when it comes to rallying for Haitian Americans? We seem to always be on our own. And this is why the Biden administration and other administrations have always known that you can always pick on Haitians. You can always pick on Black migrants because they do not have the political constituency of other groups. During the Clinton administration, we occupied Haiti. We deposed the president for 3 years. During the Bush administration, we took that same president, we dropped him off in Africa, we installed our own government there. During the Obama administration, we allowed billions of dollars of earthquake relief to simply disappear, and foreign NGOs and entities bought up hundreds of thousands of acres of property on the island, the most prime property to be used for their own purposes that Haitians have no access to. During the Trump administration, we saw the ending of the temporary protective status of many Haitian Americans, as well as the denormalization of relations and the installation of Moise as president in an election that many Haitians felt was unfair and not within the will of the people. During the Biden administration, we see the deportation of Haitians and the rounding up of them against international law, denying them the right to even petition for asylum. So it doesn't matter if it's a Republican or a Democrat in office. This is the policy of the United States government, and we have to hold them to account, because if we don't, we will continue the same process we've been in for the past 200 years of putting our finger on Haiti and ensuring that we can keep them down, because we know that they are an example to the rest of the melanated world, that if you stand up to a colonial power, if you're not sitting there singing and begging and crying and hoping, but you're shooting and organizing and getting machetes and taking over plantations and whatnot, they want to make sure that you know that we will ensure that for the next 200 to 300 years, you will be subjugated by the European world if you ever stand up again. And that is just like during the Spartacus slave revolt. After the slaves in Rome revolted, the most successful slave revolt to that point in history, when they finally caught the rebels and they rounded them up, they crucified them for 100 miles leading into Rome, both sides of the street, just to make sure that everyone who entered Rome would know what would happen if you revolted against the empire. That is why they keep Haiti poor. That is why they put these images of refugees and of squalor and hunger there, because they want to make sure the entirety of the rest of the African diaspora understands that if you stand up to the colonial powers and kick them out, this is what you will experience, not for generations, but for centuries thereafter.
Everybody, we're going to carry this conversation on the other side just for a couple more minutes, but I want to know what your thoughts are. You can call me at 773-763-9278, but meet me on the Santita Jackson and Friends page. Going to get some closing thoughts from you, Dwight McKee, and from you, Attorney C.K. Hoffler. I know you're running this morning, but we need to find out where these thousands of persons went. What about the babies who were born in the United States? They are American citizens, and they should still be here. Where are they? How are they being treated? Is there a resettlement policy for the Afghan people? There's a resettlement policy, and there ought to be. There ought to be. And there ought to be a resettlement policy. There ought to be asylum. There ought to be sanctuary for Haitians. I know I've been bringing this up every day, but I'm going to beat this drum because that's the right thing to do. I tell you what, if Haitians aren't free, eventually the Europeans won't be free in the United States. A chain is as strong as its weakest link. Until you do right by me, everything you think about is going to crumble. You got to do right by people. That's the era we're living in, everybody. Thank you, Color Purple. Now let's do right by everybody. Everybody, because everybody matters. We're children of the same God. Stay right here on the Santita Jackson and Friends page. I love you until tomorrow. Well, a little bit later on today, but tomorrow. I'm Santita Jackson. Be blessed and be a blessing. God bless you. CK, I know you are running. Do you want to say anything?
Yes, I have. Yes, I
Switch back. You're back.
Okay.
Santita, I think, first of all, keep on plugging away and pushing this. The question is, where are they now? Mm-hmm. Where have they gone? Where are those 14,000? These are 14,000 that we know about that mainstream media has talked about.
That's right.
There are probably twice as many. Where have they gone? How are they being treated? And what can we do to prevent this from happening again? Because it will happen again. It will happen again. Mm-hmm. I mean, we don't need to guess. This is, and it should happen again. It should happen again. And the difference is we don't need to engage in insanity, which is having the same thing happen over and over again and expecting a different result. We have to position so that when it happens again, which could be next week, next month, that we are positioned to put the appropriate pressure on the Biden administration. I believe the president, I'm not putting fault on one individual person, but I do know that any president of these United States of America has the ability, through the stroke of a pen, to curtail, modify, improve, and change policy through executive orders. It happens every single day.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know how more plain it could be, CK. They said they treated us like animals. I mean, what is this?
And by the way, the Afghans weren't exposed to COVID. I mean, my view, I'm not saying
wait a minute, CK.
Towards
CK, Afghans. Did you see them on the plane unmasked?
Right. So that's
Give me a
exactly
break.
my point. My point is there should be the same policy across the board. This is happening at the same time. This is happening at the same time in history. It's not the same COVID conditions existed when the Afghani people came here, and I am not at all criticizing the fact that they needed to come here. I'm just saying apply the same rule that you apply to them apply to the Haitian refugees.
That's all. Wait a minute. Let's be very clear. No one is saying that the Afghan people should not be resettled and get all of the support that they need. Absolutely. The Haitians need the same thing. That's all we're saying.
That's it. I say that because I don't want anyone to be disabused or believe that I or we are saying anything different.
Yeah.
And so again, when you have,
but there's a difference. There is a difference. The difference is the Afghans that were resettled here were willing to cooperate with Americans in the colonialization of their country and the domination of their country. Actually, most of those people were willing to sell out their country in order to save themselves. The Haitians is just the opposite position. The Haitians fought against colonialization.
That's right.
Fought against enslavement. And they became rebels to the colonial cause. And so you're looking at two different situations. You're looking at one situation that co-signs on white supremacy, and another situation that resists white supremacy. That is what's responsible for the difference in behavior.
So essentially, the Afghans are being rewarded, and the Haitians are still being punished. You make a great point. That having been said, technically they're all asylum seekers. So give to Haitians what you're giving to, I'm with you, Dwight. You're absolutely right. Brilliant observation. That having been said, give to the Haitians what you're giving to the Afghans. People over here, most people who come over here have done something a little strange at home. I mean, people who come over here en masse like that, en masse. So, but now I want to know where they are, CK. Where are they? Where'd you send them? Because you swept them out of there. Where are they now? See, they're questions that we need to engage and follow up. We should not allow the mainstream media to move on past these people. These are persons. These are human beings. Where are they? How are they being treated? Where did you take them? Did you take them to Guantanamo Bay? Did you take them to the Guantanamo base on Guantanamo Bay? Because you were looking for private contractors who spoke Creole. So are they now prisoners of war? Are they military? I mean, what is it? And we're not asking any more questions. Oh, it's over. No, it's not over. Where are they? Robert, where are they?
And this is the issue that we have, that the administration is telling us to just trust them, and we have absolutely no reason to just trust them. And it perplexes me. At a time when we're rolling out this vaccine, and we're telling the American people, just trust the government. They're doing everything under their control to remind us why we can't trust the government. Between the Afghan war, where they lied to us, and the policy they have with regard to Haitian migrants, where they're lying to us, they're not giving us any reason to trust the very government that they're telling us just trust the government on. We don't know where these migrants went. Many of them have been sent, quote unquote, back to Haiti, where my mom left Haiti in 1984. Or no, not 1980. She left Haiti. So if you send her back to Haiti because she's a Haitian national, quote unquote, she wouldn't even know who to go hang out with, where to go, where to eat, anything there. I have aunts who left after the earthquake, who went to Venezuela. And then the United States helped to destroy the Venezuelan economy after Chavez tried to challenge George W. Bush. And so they have to flee from there. These people can't just simply go back to Haiti. They have nothing to go back to. That'd be like taking some folks from Chicago who left the South during the Great Migration and sending them back to Mississippi. Like, they know just where to hang out just genetically because they're going back to Mississippi. So I think we have to put more pressure on the administration. At the end of the day, black folks don't have any eternal friends. We have no eternal enemies. We have eternal interests. And the interests of the of Haitians who are being displaced and mistreated and treated divergently from other groups I think that's in all of our interest to take care of, because they're sending the Haitians back to Haiti right now. They're going to be sending you back to Africa next. And the same way you didn't stand up and advocate for them, they're not going to be able to stand up and advocate for you. This is a crucial political issue. And I think it's going to have long-term ramifications in the next election, because the next time Democrats love to run the Republicans are racist card every election. Well, now the next time you try to say, well, Republicans are racist, they're going to pull out a picture of a cowboy on a horse whipping a black man, and it can be harder to make that argument that when that they are the party of racism when you appear to be doing the exact same thing. So this administration and Congress are going to have to get on their horses. If you can get on your horse to beat some Haitians, you can get on your horse to change immigration policy to ensure that you are detailing and defending the human rights of individuals. And the irony, the gall of Biden to go to United Nations and talk about human rights around the world, literally on the same day that black people are being rounded up on horseback at the border. It's the type of incredulity that many people, this is why you lose that faith in government. We wonder why people won't take the random vaccine that you're putting out there. The fact that you're lying at the UN at the same time you're rounding up black folks is part of the reason. You have to have a trustworthy government if you want people to trust them.
Well, worthy of trust, worthy of trust. And the thing is, like I said, and the media, trusted media is at an all-time low, and it ought to be. You're not asking, it's media. It's not even journalists anymore. Carol, you are calling in. How you doing, Carol?
She just dropped.
She just dropped, okay. Well, I'm going to get closing thoughts from everybody here. But, I think that we're going to have to, I want to press, because remember, as we were going, we hadn't even decided to go into the Second World War. We turned Jewish people away. We sent them back to their deaths. This is not just black people. We do this to people. Everybody has skin in this game. Everybody. Everybody. Gonna get some closing thoughts from everybody. CK, are you still there?
Santita, I am. I was about to leave.
Okay.
But yes, I am. And thank you again for this closing thoughts. Let's keep on fighting. I don't think we should lose focus on this. If we lose focus, the administration is not focused on it now. If we, those who stand in solidarity with the Haitian refugees, lose focus and find it's going to happen again, then it will go again. If it's at the bottom of the list, it'll go to the bottom of the list. Mm-hmm. We have to keep this issue at the top of the list of the minds of the administration. We've got our black leaders on the federal level, led by the CBC, Congressman Maxine Waters and others, organizations that are outraged, legal groups that are outraged. But as mainstream media stopped covering this, I was surfing today and mainstream media this morning, just with the volume down low, looking to see what's covering. I didn't see anyone covering this. Not a single one.
I'm not covering it.
And when I was surfing, now maybe they were covering it at a time when I wasn't surfing, but when I was surfing, not a single one was covering this. There may have been some kind of mention, because I also have the written script of what's being said. There might have been an honorable mention of, the Haitian, most of the refugees are gone and all of that. But that's it. It's no longer today's news. It's yesterday's news. And for it to be something where we can affect policy change, it has to be something that we keep at the forefront.
We're the ones who have to do it, though. We're the ones who have to do that. We
can't rely on others to do this.
Stop relying on other people to do what you need to do for yourself. Stop it. And where is Congressman Clyburn, who I like very much? Because you told us we're going to look at his heart and all this other stuff. I got you. Okay, now talk about this. Because you got thousands of people here who are missing, as far as I'm concerned. They're missing. Dwight McKee.
Not only does everybody have skin in the game, but white supremacy skin is the game. These guys, their whole ambition is to make sure that there are enough white people over here that the white people stay in charge. And it's just based on a fundamental belief is that they are superior to anybody who's not white. And anybody who's not white is inferior to them. It's that basic. So it's black and white. It is white people have to stay in charge by any means necessary, and non-white people cannot be in charge by any means necessary. And that transcends party, that transcends economic status, that transcends political orientation. That is how the country is set up. Until we understand that, we become pawns because we keep thinking it's about something else. We really start thinking it's about fairness and democracy and equality. And all of those are roots. It has nothing to do with those things. It is about, can white people maintain power to dominate the world and all the world's resources? And how do we resist that? Do we co-sign on that, or do we fight?
Robert Patillo, you get the final word here as we think about your family who, like all of us over here, have been scattered to the four winds. God bless you all.
I would tell people to register for the Rainbow Push Coalition Creating Opportunity Conference. It's going to be virtual October 14th and 15th. You can register at rainbowpushatlanta.org or creatingopportunityconference.com. And we're going to have a session on the international issues, including dignitaries from Haiti, as well as other pressing issues. You can find the entire convention rundown at creatingopportunityconference.com. And I also want to remind people, don't let these folks off the hook. Don't allow them to simply sweep this under the rug. We have a Caribbean American woman who is both the vice president and border czar. How do you treat Caribbean Americans this way? Well, the Caribbean American woman as the border czar currently, and the second most powerful woman in the free world, and frankly, the most powerful Caribbean woman in the history of Earth. In the press department, they don't like talking about it. The deputy press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, is Haitian American, born in the Caribbean. Don't allow them to simply not talk on these issues. Hold these folks accountable, because they're going to show right back up in your community in the next 6 months, talking about the midterm elections, begging you, singing the same old songs. This is the most important election of our lifetime. We have to vote for the Democrats because the Republicans, all that stuff, you heard it every election for your lifetime. Ask them, in the words of Lauryn Hill, where were you when I needed you? And make them pass some of the policies right now. Don't simply wait for election time.
And, and oh my goodness, and Trump, I'm so scared. Charles Bull wrote a brilliant column of the mendacity of Biden just yesterday, his opinion piece in the New York Times. And, he had to start with the caveat, look, let me tell you, I prefer Biden over Trump. You know what? I'm tired of hearing that. I'm tired of hearing that. You can criticize someone you supported without having to backtrack and kiss their behind, essentially, and tell them how much I love you. No, you're out of order here. Stop it. I mean, did we not learn anything from 2008 to 2016? You've got to engage in loving critique. You don't need to tear people apart. I feel that way about President Trump. Some people give me a hard time because I call him President Trump. You call every ex-president and every office holder, you call them by their title. It's an honorific. Now, I'm not going to back up off of that. He's going to be President Trump like President Obama will be President Obama to me. And President Carter will be President Carter to me. And President Bush will be President Bush to me. And on and on and on it goes. Let that go. And if that's a problem for you, then it's something else that's bothering you. And you need to push and fight, even your friends, to get what you need. You got who you want, now get what you need. You should reverse the order, because you should not have ever been excited about someone who told you that if you can't be black and vote for the other guy. Are you serious? What does that have to do with anything? Huh? No, stop it. This is out of order. And if this happened on President Trump's watch, we would have had a fit. We'd be in the streets right now. But now we're just like, well, you're not even asking where the people are. And like I said, everybody has got skin in the game. Dwight McKee, you're right there. The skin is the game, and it is the game. That having been said, this happened to white folks too, even though they were not considered white at the time, when our Jewish brothers and sisters were trying to escape Nazi persecution and certain death. We turned them away. Nobody's safe until everybody's safe. Be clear on that. Nobody. So don't think Oh, it's just the Haitians. No, sweetie. In a minute, they will be coming for you. I want to know where they are. I want to know if they're safe. I want to know if they're going to be able to get sanctuary in the United States. They sought asylum here. We bring people here all the time. Commissioner Rodney Ellis from Texas Harris County said that only 7% of the immigrants to the United States are black. That's it. And whiteness is an elastic concept, everybody. It's covering more and more and more people, including Hispanics. It covers everybody except black people. Now, let me tell you something. I'm not ambitious to be anything other than what I am. I'm very, very happy to be who I am. And everybody should be excited about who they are. That's how God made you. White, black, brown, yellow, and red. We're all God's children. But I make no apologies for being black at all. Oh, no. It doesn't make me noble, and it doesn't make me an animal. It makes me human. That's all it is. I want to find out where these people are. I want to find out if they're safe, and I want to see if they have an opportunity to come to the United States and enjoy the bounty that is left in America that everybody else has been enjoying. How about that? Let's find it out. You need to ask them questions. Make these people do more than read the news to you at night. Make them do some work and dig instead of lecture you about the shots you need to be taking or what you need to be doing or how you need to be thinking. You need to ask them to do some work. How about that? Love you, everybody. Have a good night. Thank you. Have a good day. Dwight McKee, thank you so much. Robert Patillo, thank you so much. We're going to continue to pound away at this issue, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Sending you much love. Devin, thank you for a great show. Everybody, have a great day. Have a great day. Let me see. I'm trying to see what you all are saying. Yeah, that's what God made me. He made me who I am. That's right. And he made everybody, Effie. Everybody. I'm not trying to down anybody else as Donny Hathaway sang when he sang young, to be young, gifted, and black. I'm not trying to down anybody else, but I'm not going to let you down me. That was my respectful disagreement with James today. I am tired of people telling me what black folks ain't and what we have not done. And yet you look past all those murderous people who descended upon Tulsa and other places all around the country where we have lived. Black people are northern refugees. We're southerners. We were pushed out west and we were pushed up here. Dwight, is that not true?
Absolutely, Santita.
I mean, come on.
By lynchings and beatings and discrimination. I mean, we didn't leave the South because we liked the weather in the North.
No.
It was warmer in the South. We left the South not because of the weather, because of the heat.
We were driven out. Let's be very clear. We were driven out of the South. Okay? So stop.
5,000.
Wait a minute, that they have counted thus far. Now, if that's 400 years, that's 4,800 months. That's more than a lynching a month, every single month we've been on this soil. Okay? Do that math. John Rogers is in Chicago with Ariel Capital Management because he was run out. His granddaddy was run out. And then they tried to charge him with inciting a riot. What? And Tulsa is one massacre we're talking about. There were countless massacres. Black folks came out of slavery hitting it because we wanted to be somebody. Don't you tell me about what black people are not. Black people have done everything we could to make it in the society, and we've been thwarted at every turn. And somebody is responsible for that. Somebody. Instead of blaming and shaming black people, you need to have the people who have hurt us, who have damaged us, take responsibility for it. And don't you tell me you immigrated here and so you have nothing to do with it. No. In for a penny, in for a pound. The reason you could come, we gave you a place to immigrate to. So everybody's in on this thing here. On stolen land. Make good on the treaties with the indigenous people. You have them living on reservations today. They're the poorest people in the United States. Shame, shame, shame. And until we do right by them, nothing's going to be right. The ancestors cry out for justice. And it is our job to create justice and to make this right. It's our job. That's why your ancestors got you here. It's our job to make America a more perfect union, to make it right. Make it right. Not build back better, build it right. You need to bathe. You don't need to put perfume on a dirty body. Clean it. And then start anew. So, everybody, thank you. Thank you for keeping us on point. Thank you for keeping us on point. That's why the Afghan people had to get out of there, because the overwhelming majority of the Afghan people wanted them out of there. They had to get out. That's why they were climbing the fence. They've been selling out their people for decades. Okay? That's what happened. And the time was up. That's why the Taliban said, no, August 31st is the date. You're going to get out of here. You don't have another day to put landmines or anything else. You're not going to do it. You're getting out. Dwight?
That's right. And they were generous to let them out, because a lot of people would have slaughtered them for what they did, for selling out the country. At least in their minds, it was sold out. Even if they did it for survival, in the mind of the nationals there, they sold their country out to another people, a foreign people, a foreign government.
And that's what's happening to the Haitians, by the way, right? You still have this. You still have this half-white class in Haiti selling everybody else out. The overseer class.
That's correct. Who the great grandchildren of the French and the British and the Spanish was based there. 60,000 of them who were the plantation owners, who then, because there were no white women there for the most part, partnered with the slave women and created a whole class of people who they defined, by the way, as a class.
And they're trying to do it here. They're trying to do it here. They're trying to do it here by giving you a colored class. Don't fall for it. I get it. I mean, Dwight, if I go to Zimbabwe right now, I can't live with black people. I was told that. Because, you're not considered. I'm not considered what? I said, you know what? That's the blessing of being in the United States. One drop made you, and I got more than a drop. One drop put you in, it put Adam Clayton Powell and Dr. King and Cotton Reeder and Amelia Boynton and Fannie Lou Hamer in the same box. And guess what? They were clear they were in the same box.
And we have to be clear we're in the same box. Is that we can't buy into that nonsense. Every year we should have a paper bag burning, just to symbolize the fact that we have gotten past that concept. We should have one mass holiday, not King's holiday. We should have one mass paper burning.
Absolutely.
So that we can understand who we are, how we treat it, and who our responsibility is to.
And Dwight,
it does not matter how much we try to pass. They're not going to allow us to pass.
And good.
Because for them, race is a religion. Race for them is preeminent. Everything starts with race to them. And that's what we're up against. So it really don't matter what we think about it. It's not going to get past them anyway. They have gradations of white, but it's all white. One of the reasons that Jews were not permitted to come here is because they weren't considered Caucasian.
At that time. That's why I was talking about this taffy approach to this, this elasticity of whiteness. More and more people, as we become browner and browner and blacker, more and more people are becoming whiter and whiter. They're being reclassified. So you're going to have white. I saw this wonderful I saw this wonderful title of this opinion piece, Dwight: "White Supremacy with a Tan," because that's what you've got.
Absolutely. And until we understand that, again, we become pawns of our own aspirations because we think it's about something other than that. And it's really that basic, is that they see that the white country and white Western country and white Western values, European values, should always dominate. They see this as God's gift to them. And our whole role in this is to make them more comfortable, feel better, and have an easier life.
And that's it.
It's contributing to the utopia.
And that's it.
That's the whole
and that's it. A serf, a slave. Really? No. Now, Dwight, D. Ray is asking this question before we go. Did you or I experience black-only water fountains growing up? No, I didn't, because I grew up past that time. Dwight, what about you?
Yes, I did. I'm from Memphis, Tennessee.
Okay.
And not only did we have white and black water fountains, we had to sit in the balcony at the Malcolm Theater when we were downtown to the theater. We could only go to the zoo on Tuesdays, except one year. I think it was Tuesdays. Except one year, we had to go on Thursdays because all the holidays fell on Tuesday, and the white people took the day back because they wanted to go to the fair in the zoo on those days. I grew up in a totally segregated society.
Wow.
Until I was 7 and moved to Chicago. But yes, I did experience Jim Crow. We had to sit on the back of the bus every time we rode the bus, no matter if it was big, strong white men and old 70-year-old black women. The black women had to get up and sit on the back of the bus. Some of my early memories was us having to get up, going to the back of the bus, and strong white men being able to sit down in the seats, even if we were the first ones on the bus. Yes, I was raised under segregation, and I understand it well.
Wow. Missed that. And it does shape you differently, D. Ray. And look, that's part of what drives my father today. He can't stop running, even as he can barely stand. He can't stop running. And I get it. Oh my gosh. We went someplace. It was during, I will say this and we got to go because I got to release the studio. During the Southern Crusade in 1983, when my father was about to run for president, while he was still trying to convince Andrew Young or Maynard Jackson to do it because he felt that they would be more acceptable to mainstream/white America. But he was still registering people to vote. He said, there's a freedom train a-coming, but you got to register to ride. And we went to one town in Mississippi, Dwight. It was straight out of the Dukes of Hazzard. Literally, black people lived on one side of the town, white folks lived on the other, divided by the railroad track. And Dad went into the town square, into the town center, to talk about getting registered to vote. And these black people were so scared, for the most part, to come out and see him, although they were standing on the periphery, while the white men who were the sheriffs or the law enforcement officials, they were holding their rifles and they were patting them as Reverend was talking. And I remember my father, he just kept on preaching his heart out to these people. And eventually more and more of them came out. More of them came out, but they were scared to death. This was 1983. And my father looked at us as we got in the van to drive away. He said, baby, Daddy's here to break this mess up. That's what we're doing.
Well, let me go on this story, Santita. I grew up in the age of the shoebox. Is when you travel from Memphis to Chicago, you put chicken in a shoebox because you couldn't stop in any restaurants to be able to eat. And even today, when I see an empty shoebox, I get hungry.
Whew. Okay. It doesn't get any more plain than that. And you know what? I think the day that we lose these histories, we will be poorer for it. You know, these are the things that we are
Chicken in the
supposed to know.
Chicken in the shoebox.
Chicken, you come up with some stuff, but it's the truth. Chicken in the shoebox. And it's chicken in the shoebox. Dwight, I love you so much. Robert Patillo, I love you so much. We're going to continue to push this story. I think the next thing that we've got to find out is where the people, where they were shipped to, where they're gone. Where are they? That's what we need to know. But I mean, Paul, I'll tell you, the memories, there's pain in it, but there's beauty because we've survived and we have thrived and gone on. They're lessons. They're lessons. They're lessons. They're lessons. They're lessons. Because I don't feel bitter about any of it. I mean, there's just a lot that I've learned when you see me, when you hear my rants and things like that, you hear my passion because I feel things very deeply because I've seen some things and I want to share them with you. And I really want to share them with young people so that they can understand what they're seeing. I think that not just Black people were on the border last week, but everybody. Everybody. Eventually, privilege excludes everybody but the 1%. Everybody. Privilege only includes a very, very few. Always remember that. No one is safe until everybody's safe. Nobody. So I love you, everybody. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. God bless. God bless. God bless. And always send me some comments and things like that. Dwight always wants to know what you were thinking. People were loving what you had to say today, Dwight McKee and Robert Patillo and Attorney C.K. Hoffler and Attorney Sanat and Doctors Knighton and Verholden and Devin again. Thank you for a wonderful show. God bless you, Gary Dennis Hines from the Sounds of Blackness. I love you. I love you all, everybody. Love you, love you, love you. God bless you. Have a good one. God bless. God bless. Bye-bye.